Hello there, folks. I'm Sad Snake. With me is my dear friend, the inimitable Point Virgule. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sad. Yes, today we're back to do an episode of Rendez-vous right from one of the previous homes of this series of interviews with EV stars, the Philharmonie de Luxembourg, right in the heart of our capital. That's right, but this time we're coming from a place that is also now a Eurovision venue because after hosting it twice, finally, on the third point of asking, Flux has decided to host in the capital and in our beloved Philharmonie, and they invited us to talk with someone who's been a legend even before our careers began, and we've been in the game for quite some time. Yes, that's right. She won Kala with the biggest landslide of the modern era and the second biggest after only Mei. We're talking about the incredible Lieke, who has come to represent us on home soil with the song wens. So, welcome, Lieke. Oh, hi. Hi, Sad. Hi, Point Virgule. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. So, Lieke, you have been in music for a long time. That's right, but try not to make me feel so old. No. I mean, we are impressed with your longevity because you've been in the game for like 25 years and you've constantly found a way of reinventing yourself. I guess that's true. I think once you find in music that you're comfortable and you're just making the same thing over and over, then you need to take a step back and reevaluate because music is about pushing boundaries, pushing your own boundaries, and taking risks that you might not have done. So, like, what actually got you into music? Did you have a musical family? Because I know that you made songs from a very young age. Well, that had nothing to do with my family, I gotta admit. They were not musical in the slightest in terms of making music. However, I guess they did help make my quite eclectic musical taste because both my mother and my uncle had great and extremely broad musical tastes, and in our house there was always music of so many different genres and styles and from different countries. And yeah, I guess at least I have that to thank them for. But the inclination of writing music was, came out. I don't even know where it came from. I guess I remember when I was in school, I was like 5 or 6, and they had us try to learn the recorder. And they said, "Oh, Lieke, you're terrible at this. You blow it like a black bagpipe." And I was so embarrassed. And I said, "I'm never making music again." But here we are. Years later in my teens, I just picked up a guitar that was laying around the house that my mother had tried to learn, but never quite did. And I started making music because I thought, it was a great way of expressing myself. And I thought about my life and how music had been a soundtrack to all these pivotal moments. And I thought, wow, what if I could do the same for other people someday? And you left home very young, right? That's right. I moved to Flanders, to Antwerp, when I was only 17, 18. And it wasn't a radical change because I have family there, and that's part of the reason why wens is in Dutch because, my mother's side of the family is from Flanders. But it was a big change for me because I was leaving this very sleepy little border town in Mousseland and I was going to this major city, but everything was so overwhelming and exciting in equal measure and a huge inspiration. Why exactly did you decide to make this move, especially at such a young age? Well, honestly, I thought I'm probably not going to get my music out there coming from this sleepy neck of the woods. So I thought I better get to a big city, and many people would think, "Oh, go to Paris, go to Berlin. If you go to Belgium, at least go to Brussels." But at least I had the safety blanket of having family in Antwerp. So there were people who I could turn to if my adventure didn't turn out as I planned. And it was a great city. It's a very vibrant place. And as you know, it didn't take me so long of doing solo gigs to have gotten the attention of a band. And it's thanks to them that we're talking today, really. You're referring to the seminal band Vacuum, of which you were the lead singer and one of the major songwriters as well. That's right, yeah, it was me and two guys, Julius de Mar and Karl Trier, and they saw me giving solo gigs around Antwerp. They were looking for a singer for their band, and they said, "God, you'd be perfect for it." And it was a blessing. It really was, because I don't know if I would have reached the same level of notoriety had I continued on a solo path. With them, we truly had so many different ideas bouncing off each other, and it made for something so exciting and fresh. And it wasn't so long before we weren't just an Antwerp band, we were known across Belgium and across Benelux, and we're even touring outside of that region and going to Ireland, UK, to Germany. It all snowballed so quickly with them. Now, you say you owe a lot of your career to Vacuum, but your time in the band was rather tempestuous, right? It was. I mean, these two lads, Julius and Karl, especially Julius, are stubborn like goats, and they have a very defined way of seeing things. And so do I gotta admit, I'm not the least stubborn person out there either. And we were trying to push the envelope together. All of us were trying to, you know, to expand our sound and to try new things and to surprise people, but I guess sometimes our way of pushing the envelope was pushing it in different directions until the envelope tore open. Yes, because you actually left the band on 3 or 4 occasions, right? I did, yeah, and the reason was you got back to feeling like, wow, there's so much tensions between us, and I know it's just about art and our interpretation of how best to do it, but it gets heavy, and sometimes you just want to focus on yourself and your own vision of what music you want to look into and develop. So I left the band a couple times, and the most notorious time that I left, they brought in Poir, who was a very young prospect at that time. I think she was only 16 or something. And I came back to the band after Poir joined, and that was a cause of great enmity between us for years, because Poir thought that I had agreed to take her spot, when in reality, Julius told me nothing about the fact that he had unceremoniously sacked Poir to get me back. And I really regret that. I never would have accepted the position had I known. And when I found out about the true story, like a year and a half later, I said, okay, this band has got me this far, but enough, I'm gonna go on my own path from now on, and, hopefully mend fences with Poir. Well, she was your conductor for the semi-final, so I guess you've mended your fences to some degree? I suppose, I never had anything against her. It was always one-way traffic, but I think she now sees that, she takes me for what I'm saying, that I would never have led to her being chucked out of the band, especially at that point in my career when I didn't really need to be with them, whereas she really benefited from being them. She was still finding her voice, finding her wings. So I feel really bad about it, but I'm glad that she knows that I'm being sincere, that I knew nothing about what actually happened. Because if I did, I never would have accepted to go back. Now, I imagine that this rivalry with Poir was a big reason behind why you never presented yourself to Kyla until now, right? I mean, Anna's one of the most level-handed people out there, and she wouldn't put a beef between her bestie and me get in the way of trying to make the best Kyla possible. But But yeah, she kept imploring me over several years, and this year I just thought differently. I thought, well, let's not focus too much on where this place is in Kyla. Let's just get this song and this story out there into the universe, and Kyla gets it to vastly more people than I would get to on my own. And what happens happens, and I never could have imagined it winning this gigantic landslide, especially given how talented and diverse the field of songs that I was competing against was. But yeah, it's there. It won Gala. It's in EV, and I'm glad I sent it. And I really hope the song will resonate on the Eurovision stage too. Now, you wrote this song about a friend of yours who unfortunately passed away very prematurely. That's that's right. Yeah. I would say friend is underselling what the bond we had was, because we have hundreds of friends in life, but this was such a deep and abiding friendship that it was like family, really, you know. And he always had my back, and I always had his. But unfortunately, he was finding it increasingly difficult to let the people who were there for him in, because he was going down this path of self destruction and wasn't telling us anything about it, was keeping it hidden from us, was getting stuck in these patterns of behavior that were making him miserable and endangering his life. And we could have done so much to help, but to our eyes, he seemed to be thriving. He seemed to be having an amazing time. Every time that we did get concerned, he'd just brush it off. And then one day, we got the notice that he'd passed away, and it was like my world had stopped. And honestly, since that day, it's been almost 5.5 years now. My world hasn't started spinning in the same way since. And ever since then, obviously not 24/7, but often these invasive thoughts come into my mind, and it's like, you should have been able to see what was happening. You could have done so much more. And just all these futile wishes of, oh, I wish I could have done that, I wish I would have done that, just come flooding your mind. And in fact, that was the inspiration for this song. One night I woke up, it was like 4 o'clock, there was no sound, there was no light, and I thought, God, this is the reality for my friend, away from us all, away from the world, and it so easily could have been avoided. And I started writing all these wishes, and it became the spine of the song, wens. In the song, you talk about wishing that you had, well, let me read it. I wish I had yellow roses without thorns. What does that mean? So, yellow roses are a symbol of friendship and have been for a long time. And when I say I wish I had yellow roses without thorns, it's like I wish I had the friendship but without the other. They say every rose has its thorn, and the thorn of a yellow rose is the fact that it represents also mourning. So I wish we had this friendship without mourning. I say also, I wish that he had a moon that would never wax, because the moon is a source of hope, a source of light, even when you can't see the stars, and obviously the sun is down, the night is dark. For most of the time, you can make out the moon and it can light your path a little. And so I was wishing with those lines that he would have a source of light that would never fade, that he could always see some light, even in the darkest days. There'd never be a new moon, you know. It's just this list of things that I wish were in his life so that his life still continued. And I'm really touched that it managed to win Gala. I honestly didn't see it coming at all, because a lot of people come with a message, and honestly that wasn't my intention at all, really. I just wanted to tell this story, and I know my friend can't hear it, but, pass it on to the universe, so to speak. But if I were to say that there's a message behind the song, then I guess it is to to look after all your friends and to never take for granted the fact that they're okay. Sometimes you really got to reach out and look behind the surface and just, you know, your close friends are like family. You got to keep them close. I guess that's what is the takeaway from this song. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lieke. We hope that you will do amazingly here in the Philharmonie in some hours. All of Luxembourg will be behind you. Thanks so much, and thanks for taking the time to interview me. It's been a pleasure.